Hi, I'm Chanel.
And I'm Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about debating over the age of the Grand Canyon.
As most of you know, the Grand Canyon is a large tourist attraction, but it is also an important study site for geologists. The site is a result of erosion and it has a very diverse landscape. The canyon allows scientists to study several different areas of the Earth in one spot. According to the National Park Service, the canyon spans 1,218,375 acres. It is located on the Colorado Plateau in Arizona, and it is approximately 277 miles long and 4,000 feet deep. Over the last few years, there have been debates, as Andrew said, about the age of the Grand Canyon. I'll be explaining the research that I have found in the forming of the Grand Canyon around 70 million years ago. Techniques used in dating the formation of the Grand Canyon include measuring the temperature of rocks over time. The farther the rock is into the earth, the higher the temperature of it will be. As erosion begins chipping away at the rock, it begins forming a canyon, and the rock is exposed to Earth's surface and it cools down. This is how scientists of a recent publication studied it. Through, through their study by Dr. Ken Farley at Caltech and his assistant, Dr. Rebecca Flowers, in a study called Evidence for an Ancient Grand Canyon, they used techniques that involve measuring helium in minerals. They not only measured the amount of helium produced in minerals, but also how far apart the helium atoms were when they were moving closer to the surface of the Earth during the erosion of the Grand Canyon. This happens because helium in the minerals can change many different ways over time, and as long as the minerals are deep within Earth's crust at a temperature of 70 degrees Celsius, they can escape from minerals by diffusion or by spreading. When minerals rise to Earth's surface or by a canyon being carved downward, rocks start to cool and it traps the helium within the minerals. By the helium doing this, it has helped scientists understand and estimate when the rocks have cooled.
Okay, a couple questions. Actually, right now I just have one. Could you speak to some of the legitimacy of studying minerals and helium?
Yeah, certainly. It's it's called um, um, it's called apatite thermocology, and it's actually a good indicator of erosion of the canyon because of its unique sensitivity to detect temperature variations in the shallow crust. And like we've studied in this class, tectonic processes, it's also used in that to figure out what has caused rock cooling.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do my bit. Okay, so the debate over whether the Grand Canyon is approximately 70 million years old or 6 million years old is a very interesting one. It leaves a lot of geologists uncertain. Both sides make fairly good arguments, but I'm going to explain in the coming minutes why I feel that the Grand Canyon being merely 6 million years old as opposed to 70 million years old is more grounded in the evidence we have discovered, thus in the realm of greater likelihood. Okay, so for the sake of this argument, I think it is fair to reach a mutually agreed upon definition of the Grand Canyon. To my opponent, I asked if she would agree that the Grand Canyon is constituted by a steep-sided canyon that was carved out by the Colorado River.
I do agree, Andrew.
Okay, that established, I'd like to talk about the main pillar of my argument. As my opponent explained earlier, thermochronology is a science that reveals when hot rocks from the deep underground first approached the surface and then cooled down as overlying rock eroded away. How does this apply? Allow me to explain. A geologist from the University of Arizona named Carl Karlstrom used thermochronology and took measurements in 4 varying sections of the canyon. From these measurements, he was able to figure out when each set of rocks rose to the surface. He found that the eastern Grand Canyon and the western Marble Canyon, basically the Grand Canyon as we know it today, came into existence approximately 6 million years ago with the use of his thermochronology techniques. While the other two locations that Karlstrom studied, the East Kaibab Paleo Canyon and the Music Mountain Formation, indicated earlier formation, these canyons, unlike the Western Marble Canyon and the Eastern Grand Canyon, were both drained by different rivers rather than the Colorado River. It was only later on that the forces of stream piracy and headward erosion from the Colorado River united these four sections of the canyon that Carlson studied. Yeah.
You claim that the Grand Canyon was formed 6 million years ago. What geological processes do you believe were factors in its creation?
Okay, so some of the things that I explained earlier. Second, I explained how. Here, I have a couple pictures that might help this question. So I explained how headward erosion, and then also stream piracy, contributed to the development of the Grand Canyon. Here's a couple images that explain that. Then here's stream piracy. So that just explains how, the Grand Canyon is very long and windy and whatnot.
So you would say that these factors were strong enough to create the Grand Canyon in such a relatively short time?
Yeah, absolutely. Given the constant flow of the Colorado, I see it perfectly possible for the Grand Canyon to form in just, a mere 6 million years. That's your part now, I think, right?
As I was explaining earlier, Dr. Flowers and Dr. Farley, they took 4 different rock samples from the western portions of the Grand Canyon and also 4 from the eastern portion. The samples from the western portion of the Grand Canyon showed that these parts had already been carved out not very far from their current depths. This would have happened around 70 million years ago. Flowers also suggest that maybe the landscape changed over time and changed the way that the river flowed. She also suggests that the rock samples are different because it is possible that the eastern and western parts of the canyon formed, possibly at different times.
Okay, so would you say that studying apatite thermochronology is a proven, efficient way to estimate erosion?
I would. Apatite thermochronology is a good indicator of erosion of the canyon because of its unique sensitivity to detect temperature variations in the crust of the earth. It's also been used in studying tectonic processes.
Okay. So holding Karlstrom's findings to be true, I feel that it is only reasonable to say that the Grand Canyon, as we know it, formed about 6 million years ago, and that anything earlier than this likely didn't resemble what we perceive to be the Grand Canyon, nor was it a canyon that had been carved out specifically by the Colorado River, which me and my opponent decided earlier was one of the defining characteristics of the Grand Canyon. This is not to say that the preliminary steps that eventually led to the formation of the Grand Canyon could not have been laid out millions of years before. This is certainly a possibility, but the evidence that my opponent provides is not as substantiated as the evidence I provide for my case. While the formation of the Grand Canyon was undoubtedly not the type of thing that happened overnight, the questions to be answered in this debate are when did the bulk of its formation occur, and also when did the canyon that we know today form. While there is some evidence that suggests traces of the canyon could be 70 million years old, there is a wealth of evidence that tells us that the bulk of the canyon, particularly the Western Marble Canyon and the Eastern Grand Canyon, formed 6 million years ago. Through my research on this topic and in searching for a resolute answer to this question, this ongoing geologic debate, I have come to the conclusion that if you need an absolute answer to the question, the best answer is that the canyon is 6 million years old. That said, the two sides that my opponent and I are arguing are relative extremes, with the true answer being a combination of both of our arguments.
Can you tell me your source on the publications of Dr. Carl Carlson?
Yeah, that was a publication from Nature Geoscience from nature.com.
Okay, and are you suggesting that maybe the formation parts of the Grand Canyon formed about 70 million and some parts of it formed about 5 to 6 million years ago?
Yeah, so basically, it's somewhere. The answer to this question isn't one or the other, but is really just somewhere in between what we're both saying. All right, that's all for our debate. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, that's